The air over East Africa vibrates with something unseen, not just tension, but transformation. From Nairobi's bustling avenues to the hills of Kigali, from the old quarters of Kampala to the restless ports of Mombasa, a silent force is reshaping the continent. On the surface, this is a story of innovation, of diplomacy, security deals, and dazzling new partnerships. But beneath the headlines lies a more uncomfortable question. In chasing progress, is Africa surrendering its sovereignty, its moral clarity, its very soul? Our journey began in October 2023 with a moment that rippled far beyond the gilded halls of Kenya's parliament. Former Deputy Speaker Farah Maalin, draped in a Palestinian scarf, stood his ground after being ordered to remove it.
Not display or wear colors that associate to either a party or a foreign sovereign within parliament.
This is not just a scarf. It is a stand against occupation. It is a voice for the voiceless. The message was unmistakable. For many Africans, silence on Gaza had become complicity. But to understand how we reached this moment, we must turn to history, a history in which Africa was rarely an author of its own fate. In 1903, as the British Empire carved up Africa, it proposed a radical solution to the so-called Jewish question. To settle Jews not in Palestine, but in East Africa, a plan known as the Uganda Scheme. The proposal never materialized, but its logic revealed something lasting. To colonial powers, Africa was a canvas for other people's ambitions, a place to solve European problems, regardless of African wishes. The continent's land and people were negotiable. African agency was invisible. That disregard, the belief that Africa's future could be written in foreign capitals, still echoes today in new alliances and in uncomfortable silence of modern diplomacy. Decades later, a new drama unfolded again, not by African script.
The operation was planned and executed by Israel.
In July 1976, an Air France jet hijacked by militants landed at Uganda's Entebbe airport. The world watched as Israel launched a daring rescue. Commandos stormed the terminal, freed 102 hostages, and lost only one of their own, Lieutenant Colonel Yoni Netanyahu, the older brother of Israel's future prime minister. The Entebbe raid became legend. It cemented Israel's reputation for projecting power anywhere, but it also reinforced a deeper pattern: Africa as a stage for the ambitions, heroics, and tragedies of others. Central to this drama, but rarely controlling the script. That mythic image would be revived decades later.
Soldiers carried out the historic mission at Entebbe, and now I have the privilege to return here as Prime Minister of Israel with some of those same brave soldiers and some of those brave pilots who flew them here. That night 40 years ago also changed the course of my own life and the lives of those whose relatives died here: Jean-Jacques Maimoni, Pasco Cohen, Ida Borochovich, and Dora Bloch. My beloved brother Yoni, who led the force that stormed the old terminal, overcame the terrorists and freed the hostages, was the only soldier
Israeli leaders drew on it to justify new partnerships where security, silence, and allegiance could be traded for influence. From the Uganda Scheme to Entebbe, Africa's sovereignty was not just ignored, it became a bargaining chip in other nations' quests for legitimacy and leverage. And as Israel returned to the continent, seeking new alliances, that legacy of Africa as a silent partner cast a long shadow over every handshake, every contract, every silence in international halls. The echoes of those moments are not mere footnotes. They shape how Africa is seen, how it negotiates, and how much voice it dares to use.
What the Arabs, many of the Arab states now understand, is
certainly many African countries grasp as well. And they also, I think, understand another thing, that Israel can be their partner not merely in the areas of security, but first and foremost in the areas of development. Israel has also changed over the years and became a world power in innovation, in water management, in health, in agriculture, in just about every area of life that is important for the well-being and prosperity of the people of Africa. So when you have these two things finally congeal, general political change in the world and in our region, in the Middle East, and the growing needs of security and development, Israel is a natural partner. And therefore, I've always wanted to have Israel come back to Africa, but I think what has changed now is that many African countries want to.
Today, as Israel forges deep ties with East African nations, the same old question haunt the present: whose interests are being served, at what cost to Africa's voice, dignity, and future? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launched his Return to Africa campaign, the first by an Israeli leader in decades. The intent was clear: reshape alliances, shift UN voting blocs, and rewrite Africa's historic solidarity with Palestine. The numbers tell the story. In 2013, Kenya sided with Palestine in more than 80% of UN votes. By 2018, that had plunged below 40%. Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, one by one, their stances softened or fell silent on the global stage. This was not quiet diplomacy. It was soft coercion, silence, bought and branded. But the price of silence is never paid in votes alone.
We need to partner with each other. We need to be able to deal with the security threats that we have together. And we believe that there is need for us as a continent to once again begin re-engaging Israel on a more positive basis, with an understanding that our partnership can help make this world that much more secure. And this is something that
In Kenya, the shock of the 2013 Westgate mall attack created a security vacuum. Israeli defense firms quickly stepped in, bringing advanced drones, biometric surveillances, and counter-terror training. For African governments facing urgent threats, Israeli solutions promise speed and discretion. No lectures on democracy, no strings from Western donors. In Uganda, President Museveni's regime embraced Israeli-made surveillance systems, some built by ex-Mossad operatives. Civil liberties were swept aside for the promise of order. Human rights groups documented how these tools enabled arbitrary arrests and deep digital monitoring. Mobile phones, once a source of connection, became instruments of state control. In Rwanda, under Paul Kagame, the digital game turned darker. Investigations by Amnesty International and Citizen Lab revealed the use of Israeli Pegasus spyware, not to fight terror, but to monitor journalists, opposition figures, and activists. At the United Nations, silence in the African Union, and a deafening silence on Gaza. Israel's embrace of Africa is often showcased through the story of Beta Israel. Over 169,000 Ethiopian Jews airlifted to Israel in daring operation. But statistics from Israel's own Central Bureau of Statistics reveal an uneasy truth. Ethiopian Israelis are twice as likely to live in poverty and make up a disproportionate share of incarcerated youth. In 2019, the killing of Solomon Teka, an unarmed Ethiopian Israeli teenager, sparked mass protests.
They have long been the victims of systemic discrimination. Just how bad is it?
Obviously, being the darkest hued Jews in the country, they face color-based discrimination that's not unlike in the United States and other parts of the world. The Ethiopian community has not been allowed to access to housing all over the country. They were sent to certain communities and other communities refused them. They were sent to certain schools and other schools refused them.
They've also suffered endemic poverty. At least 65% of Ethiopian children live below the poverty line. Just 5% of the community have college degrees, compared with 28% of the broader Jewish population. And on top of that, 1/5 of the inmates in juvenile facilities are Ethiopian Israelis.
Israel, for all its talks on resilience and unity, struggles to offer equality to its own African-descended citizens. The contradiction is stark. Between October 2023 and June 2024, Gaza descended into catastrophe. Over 37,000 Palestinians killed, among them 14,000 children. Homes, schools, hospitals obliterated. The UN Secretary General called it a moral outrage. The International Criminal Court, long criticized for focusing on African leaders, opened war crimes investigation into Israel and Hamas officials. But when justice knocked on Israelis' door, many African states, once loud in their demands for global justice, looked away. The silence was not just diplomatic, it was existential. But if leaders turned their back, the people did not. In Ethiopia, a country split nearly even between Muslims and Christians, protests spread from Jima to Bahar Dar. Church choirs and mosque pulpits echoed a single cry: Gaza matters. In Dar es Salaam, religious leaders affirmed, this is about humanity, not faith. In Nairobi, students held silent vigils, their signs reading, Africa remembers occupation. From city streets to rural mosques, a grassroots of refusal to accept official silence gathered force. This new silence is woven into Africa's economic lifeline. Foreign aid is advertised as development, but the reality is more cynical. In 2022, Rwanda received 1.2 billion, Uganda nearly 1 billion, much of it earmarked for growth. Yet over 80% of US aid contracts land in firms based in Washington, Tel Aviv, or Brussels. Less than 11% reaches local organizations. This is not aid, it's extraction dressed as generosity. Even digital dreams are shaped offshore. African governments, eager for progress, buy turnkey solutions from foreign companies. The contracts come with proprietary code, foreign staff, and long-term dependency. Israeli firms, many founded by former intelligence officers, embed themselves deep within Africa's infrastructure, from national ID programs to water management. Procurement rules favor outsiders. Local tech entrepreneurs find themselves locked out of their own future. What's left is a new digital colonialism. Money flows out, surveillance grows, and civil society's voice is further stifled. Africa now stands at a precipice. Its fate is being written not just in parliament chambers or on city streets, but in tender documents, algorithms, and fiber optic cables. Silence may buy drones, diplomatic favors, and security, but it costs something deeper: the right to speak, to dissent, to dream. The question is not whether Israel is a friend or a foe. It is, what price does the friendship demand? What is Africa trading away? The next chapter in Africa's liberation will not be fought only in bush or won at the ballot box. It will unfold in boardrooms, at development banks, in the code that governs our daily lives, and in the network that captures our data. It will force a new reckoning. Who gets to speak for Africa? Who benefits from her silence? Who builds the system? And who owns the future? Africa is not a blank canvas, nor a passive recipient of others' ambitions. It is a continent of memory, resistance, and unyielding hope. This is not just Israel's story. It is a story of systems of power and dependence, of voice raised in silence, of choices that echo across generations. So the question, in the end, is not what the world demands of Africa, but what Africa dares to demand of itself and of the world. Because history may remember the silence, but it will never forget the choice.